Let's talk data. So unique data considerations when you're doing market research to serve adult learners. I'm going to start on the demand side. Of course, it is always important to understand market demand. We want to think through things like where are the job opportunities, and that means regions, states, and cities, more and more, especially continuing in professional education being offered online, and so that can kind of broaden your horizons in terms of understanding where is there demand concentrated in the economy across the nation, but also specifically which companies are hiring. And that level of precision is important both for the actual planning and development of the credentials, but also with regards to partnerships, as far as identifying, like we talked about earlier, those employers who may be looking for someone to come alongside them and offer relevant training. If you know who's hungry, who has that strong demand for certain skill sets, that can inform your partnership outreach, as well as just career and academic advising and helping students understand where they can go once they have the education, what specific job titles are in demand. Same reasons when you're going into a partnerships conversation, helpful to understand in more detail where the demand is, but also when you're talking to prospective students, helping them understand. Thinking in broad occupation categories is a good place to start, but as we'll see when Morgan gives us a walkthrough in a few minutes here, it's really useful to get below that broad occupation level. You know, something like financial managers would be an occupation. But then to get in and see, well, does that mean equity analysts? Is that tax? Is that financial planning and analysis? Understanding in greater detail is important for developing those really targeted credentials. And then what are the specific skills and what's the level of education that they require? That obviously is essential for informing curriculum. So that applies certainly here, but also just broadly. But particularly when you're serving adult learners, it's important to consider market supply because it's not high school graduates, it's whoever is in the workforce currently. And so it's important to have perspective and insight there as well. Where do they work geographically? Where are these working adults who might be interested in your program? Are they in your city or are they elsewhere? In which case it may be more of a priority to have an online option. What jobs are those professionals working in now? And what skills do they already have? And the reason that's so essential is because when you're thinking about developing these programs, you're really looking at how can I build a bridge to get working individuals from where they are to where they want to be as efficiently as possible. Because as we saw earlier, that's how they're thinking. They're thinking, the adult workers and learners themselves are thinking in terms of how can I upskill or pivot, and they're looking for that most efficient pathway. And that's the bridge that you have the opportunity to build, but it requires insight into both sides of that equation. So that is what I have for you in terms of setting things up. I'm gonna kick things over to Morgan at this point. And he's gonna start sharing his screen and walk us through it.
Let me know, Remy, when you can see it. If you can give me a thumbs up.
Looks good to me. I think you're all clear.
Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Morgan. I work directly with a lot of universities and colleges around the country. And today, what I want to do is, are you able to hear me? I'm getting a note that I can't be heard.
I can hear you okay.
See if there's any chats coming in that having trouble hearing.
Yeah, I got a note. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, folks, if you can send in questions in the questions box and let us know. Okay. Yep. It's coming in. People can hear.
Okay. Great. Cool. So yes, I work with folks around the country using this data to not only evaluate, but also create, see what opportunities there are for programs for adult learners, for undergrads, that kind of thing. What I want to do today is run through Analyst at a relatively high level, but I want to touch on a number of different kind of buckets of data and how they can be connected to inform our decisions. So what you see in front of you is Analyst, the main landing page for Analyst, some reports we've run as internally as a company, but also here on the left, you can start to see the types of data that are housed here: BLS data, IPEDS program data, job postings, NAICS code, industry data, profile data. But what I want to do is I want to kind of understand what's happening in the market that I may not understand or not know at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at a high level and use a stock code search. I'm going to take an occupation table and look in the state of Wisconsin for all the occupations, because I want to see not only what's growing in magnitude, but also what is growing in percentage. And we can start to see that here. So these are all different stock codes, if you're familiar with stock codes. And we can start to see changes over the next 10 years in these occupations to the state of Wisconsin. We can filter it by magnitude, and we can filter it by percentage. But what you can already start to see here is a lot of these jobs that are showing up are not adult learner jobs. They're maybe like entry-level jobs or associate degree level jobs. So what I actually want to do is add a really quick filter for average or entry-level education, typical entry-level education. So I'm going to add that column into this data table, and I'm going to run a really quick filter. So this entry-level education is greater than or equal to bachelor's degree. So I'm going to basically pair my search to bachelor's degree and above, and you can start to see a big difference in the occupation codes. So something like software developers, software quality analysts, and testers, it's growing everywhere as a percentage and as a magnitude, and we can see that here. 16% growth in the next 10 years equates to 4,100 jobs. But what we can do is really quickly start to identify what might be an interesting occupation to drill down into that maybe we don't understand very well. And there's a lot within the software developer world that may not be understood. There's lots of different veins and pathways within that, so we can drill down there. But the one that I'm kind of interested in, that I'm seeing pop up in more places than just Wisconsin, is this market research analyst marketing specialists. So it's set to grow over the next 10 years, strong growth numbers, so I want to understand it better. So I'm going to zoom in on this occupation and go to an overview. So to get a little bit more specific data, I can start to see the kind of the number of jobs currently, compensation data relative to the U.S. So we're looking at it as a lower compensation job in Wisconsin compared to the U.S. average. And we can see some job posting demand roughly average. We can start to see growth trends. So as Ray was talking about, understanding where growth is or where adult learners might be. I've controlled here for a couple different MSAs to compare to Wisconsin as a state. So it's supposed to grow 14% in Wisconsin, but in Milwaukee makes up 6.5, that percentage, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Madison. Right, so we can start to see, are there MSAs around us that are seeing growth, specifically within the state, Milwaukee, Madison, or right outside the state that we pull students from already, or that we would want to enter in if there was a compelling reason to. And we can see Minneapolis itself has a high percentage increase over the next 10 years and roughly the same amount of growth as Wisconsin itself. So that might be an area that we would want to drill down as well, right? So regional differences become really clear. We can start to see breakdown again by those MSAs. We can see which industries they fall into. But if we wanted to jump right into a much higher resolution, So we understand this is a growing occupation in the state. There might be an MSA we want to drill down into specifically, but we want to see some of the nuances and get really high resolution on what are the skills and what are the companies and job titles that fall underneath this occupation code. So we get a glimpse of it here with companies and titles, but I'm going to jump directly into the posting analytics. So what we were looking at was BLS data, structured longitudinal data. It has really good wages, wage data, that kind of thing. But there's a lagging measure to it, right? What job posting does is it complements that BLS type data with real-time demand signals from employers by region. So we can start to see really high resolution on job titles and skills and employers over the last, say, 3 or 4 months if we wanted to. So as you can see here, I've moved reports, but everything has stayed in control. Wisconsin, market research analysts. There's 5,000 unique job postings out of the 22,000-ish postings that we found. So the same job was posted in 22,000 places. I'm sorry, 5,000 very unique jobs were pulled out of the 22,000. That ratio is essentially this intensity number. We can start kind of assigning a wage to this. So this is a mixture of data, but we can see here 14% of the postings actually surfaced a wage on the posting, and we were able to capture that and layer that in. That's a growing data point that we're finding. We're finding more and more postings advertise a salary, which is good. Transparency is really great. We can start to see postings in time series, 5 years, 12 months, last 30 days. So we can see here there's a clear growth in the state of Wisconsin for this occupation. Very clear over the last year and a half specifically. We're able to extract the education from this. So it's obviously we've controlled for an occupation that typically asks for bachelor's degrees. That's reflected here. But we can also see the percentage breakout. So most of these are at the bachelor's degree level. Percentage of them are asking for a master's degree. This is already kind of indicating to me that unless there's a specific job role, I'm probably looking more at a post-baccalaureate certificate offering, right? I could very easily control for the master's degree specific jobs, so 630 right here. I can filter just to see those, to see what the skill requirements are for those. But on its face at scale, there's a need for folks 2 to 4 to 6 years. This is not an entry-level job, I guess is the point here. So we can see the companies that are hiring. So to that corporate use case, we can drill down to specifically into Uline or Oracle or Facebook and see their specific postings related to this occupation in the state. With some demand, some other demand signals here like median posting duration and that intensity number. We can see within the state, the cities, kind of look like usual suspects here. And at a really high resolution, there's job titles. So below the SOC code, these job titles can be a lot more can already, here I'm already seeing some descriptive text here. Marketing specialist, digital marketing specialist, web tech specialist, email specialist, specialist analysts. So there's obviously a specialty here within these jobs. And what we can do is we can take these marketing, digital marketing, all the ones that have specialists in them and just control for those and look really specifically at those to see what's unique about those jobs, that job title. Do they relate to a specific company that's looking for specialists, or is it more of a broad market term that has some specific skills associated with it? We can see industry level data, not super useful here, but if we were to try to define something like financial tech, we can start with the finance industry, start controlling for skills or software type codes and start to get to those really specific nuances for things that have not been well defined within BLS or QCW or NAICS data. Here what we're looking at is really where a lot of folks iterate is this hard and common skill gap analysis. So you can see in the dark blue or black, those skills, so basically data analysis, digital marketing, analytics, these are skills that are showing up the most within these job postings. These are the top skills related to these postings that we've controlled for, okay? And that's kind of already connects to what you were seeing in the AACU survey there, Remy, about analyzing data and understanding and interpreting it as a skill, digital skills. But in the light blue, we can see the frequency with which those skills are showing up in profiles. So we'll jump into the supply side data, but here is a layering on of the real-time demand signals of job postings, the top skills related to marketing specialists, and the supply side data. So the folks that fall under this occupation in the state of Wisconsin, this is how many of those folks cite these skills in their profiles. So essentially we have skill gaps here in data analysis, analytics, SQL, finance related to this occupation in the state. And so as folks are looking for what is post-baccalaureate type credentialing or credential to a pathway or coursework to a pathway to a master's degree, being really explicit about these are the in-demand skills that are in the state, and we are teaching them in our coursework because there is a gap around the state, and this will distinguish you maybe from other folks or put you on a path to make more money or upskill in your career into new job roles, those kinds of things. And so we see that in hard and in the common skills. Okay. So the last piece before we do a little bit of a question and answer, what I want to do is take this occupation code and go back to Remy's point of where are these people? Where are these people? We've defined how we can upskill them. Essentially, there's an opportunity to upskill them in this data analytics, the science of marketing rather than the art of marketing. But let's go into profiles. So this represents the supply side of the market, and we are going to search by this occupation code. Oops. This was marketing and research analyst specialist, and Wisconsin. So we're going to look for these folks in Wisconsin. Where are they? So we have about 11,000 folks in Wisconsin, mainly concentrated in Milwaukee and Madison, that fall under this occupation code. And we can start to see the companies that they work for. So a little bit of difference in companies. Northwest was at the top, Kohl's was up at the top, but definitely a shuffling. We can see their job titles. So what we're seeing here between the specialist and the analysts, that's a very good to see roughly the kind of the same titles and in the same order. That's a positive sign there. And we can actually start to see the schools where they went to and the programs that they came from. So if we wanted to start to see, okay, we've got 10,000 of these folks in Wisconsin, but let's look back at Minneapolis and see if there's a kind of a difference to the Minneapolis market research analyst. So there's 12,000 just in Minneapolis alone. And a little bit of shuffling of job titles, obviously different schools. But this is already starting to surface to us that Minneapolis may be a good market to offer this credential or post-baccalaureate certificate master's degree in the science of marketing. We should potentially offer it as an online or just market it within the Minneapolis MSA. So I'd be curious as well for Chicago. So 12,000 of them in Minneapolis. 30,000 in Chicago. And then let's just look at Milwaukee specifically. And Milwaukee has the lowest number at 4,000. So there's clearly a need in the state, but maybe the students, the learners aren't coming from the state. Maybe we want to market this specifically to alumni to start. So we say if I'm the University of Wisconsin, so let's do Wisconsin, Milwaukee. So Wisconsin, Milwaukee has 1,200 alumni who are marketing research analysts around the country. Is this a sample size of alumni that we could market this offering to, because they fall under the job titles, digital marketing, marketing specialist, and where their skills here. So we have some data analysis skills, but a lot of those hard, a little bit more SQL, which is a really entry-level coding language. Some of those skills would be valuable to these alumni who are in this job role. So maybe we're targeting alumni with a certificate or pathway to a degree, or we're marketing these skills in Minneapolis to these marketing research analysts. So to recap really quickly, we've gone from structured longitudinal BLS data at a high level. We've created some resolution by looking at a specific occupation and letting that kind of be our guide into the real-time in-demand job posting data and real-time supply data. So yeah, hope that was kind of interesting and fun. There's obviously a lot more that can be done here with analysts, and how we can benchmark regions and look at more specifically at how skills show up by certain job titles. But hopefully this gives a picture of how these data points can be woven together to help underpin your decisions around program assessment and development.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, Morgan. And I'm actually going to leave it if you want to continue to share your screen, because I think we might have some questions coming in that you might be able to walk us through.
Sounds good.
And everyone, just a heads up, I am going to launch a quick poll question as we transition into Q&A. We do have a bunch of questions, and please feel free to continue to submit those. But as we get ready for that, just wanted to give you an opportunity to request follow-up, basically. So if you're interested in the topic that we're discussing today, and you'd like to have someone from MZ Burning Glass reach out to you, one of those top two options would be for you. So the first one is, yes, I'm a current client and I'd just like some support and training. We're more than happy to connect with you there. Second option is, if you're new to MZ Burning Glass, or you're not sure if your institution is a client or not, you can go ahead and check that box, and we'll have somebody reach out to you to walk you through what the capabilities are. And then, of course, if you just want to say no thanks, there's an option for that too. So go ahead and complete that poll for us if you would, so we know how to follow up. And Morgan, I'm going to start asking questions here. There's a couple folks asking just generally about the profile data. Could you speak to where that comes from and what that means? Someone was asking also, is that people that are applying to jobs, or is that people currently working? Could you explain that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the profile data comes from similar places in a similar way that we pull the job postings data. So if you can imagine a job posting kind of website, maybe if you thought about Indeed or LinkedIn or something like that, they have both profiles and they have job postings. And so we are scraping and aggregating from a myriad of websites, cleaning it and presenting it in the aggregate, as you can see here. So total database of about 123.5 million folks.
Fantastic.
And what was the second half? Was there a second half of that question, Remy?
Just ask, I think, just more detail in terms of, like, is it, yeah, did it come from applicants? Is it based on job applications?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so it's workforce. It's not necessarily folks that are looking to work. It's more folks that are. So we're pulling their profile data. And they could be in work right now. It could be their last employer. That kind of thing. There's no distinction between are they unemployed, are they looking for work, do they like their job. We don't have those distinctions within profiles.
Great. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now. Looks like most folks have had a chance to submit a response, which we appreciate, and we will be in touch or not accordingly. So let me make sure now that we can still see your screen, Morgan. I'm going to make sure we can do that. Hold on one second. On my screen, it's looking like we still just see the poll question. Can someone out there in the audience submit in the questions box, let me know if you can see Morgan's screen right now? That would actually be really helpful. I want to make sure that, oh yes, okay, good, looks like we can.
Great, cool.
Well, let's keep rolling then. So someone asked the question during your walkthrough. It showed 5,000 plus job postings over the past year. And they were asking, would it be better to divide that number by the number of months in the year to get a more real number? So can you speak to the postings?
Yeah.
And how that works? Oh,
yeah,
hang on.
absolutely. So
Sorry, before you get into that, apparently the yes I got was an anomaly. Most folks just see the poll. So hang on one second. Okay. I'm gonna do this. Do this. Sorry, everybody. Thanks for chiming in. And let me switch it back to Morgan. Okay. Go ahead and try it now. Okay.
Should be showing now, yep.
I think we're back in business. Thank you, everybody, for
okay.
All right, back to job postings. Go ahead.
Yep, so we would actually be able to, in job postings, look at any kind of time series dating back to right now, 2016. So we can look at these month over month to see how things are changing. That's what a lot of folks that I work with do. They want to see the time series and have a report kind of dynamically update in the background. But we can very easily see month by month data. The other, in the job postings, analytics piece. In the table, we would actually be able to get to that really specifically. I don't know that we want to do all of this, but within a table, you would be able to find like new unique openings by month, so new jobs that are posted every single month. We would be able to create that in a filter the way that we did for the oh, here we go, newly posted. I must have run this recently. So unique postings within a time frame over a month. So by this job title within the state of Wisconsin, underneath this SOC code, a little bit of controls. This is how many marketing specialists at a job title are posted in each grant.
Great. Thank you very much. Someone asking about with more postings these days, we're hearing that more companies are starting to not necessarily require a degree in a job posting. When you're filtering by, when you're using that education filter in the job posting, does that get into whether the degree is required or preferred? How should we think about that?
Yeah, great, very good question. So we are pulling it through our natural language process that does not make that distinction. What we can start to do is look at associate level degree jobs that are looking. So some of these, so we've controlled for associate's degrees. So all of these associate degrees, these job postings, cite that we need an associate's degrees, and about just under half of them are citing a bachelor's degree. So that's going to indicate associate's degree, kind of bachelor degree preferred. We can also, if we're getting into pretty high resolution, we can start to see the actual posting as well. So we can start to see like preferred. We could take all of the associate's degrees, look at these individual postings, and maybe actually the best way to do that is to do a keyword search. So we're going to look specifically for those two words, bachelor preferred, within the job postings. And it would actually show it to us. So that would be one way to start to tease out that really specific type of preferred or required.
Right.
It really depends on the scale with which you're looking at, right? That whether you need to make that distinction or not. And sometimes it's very necessary and sometimes it's not so much.
Great, thank you. Oh boy, let's see here. Lots of good ones. So somebody, Morgan, I don't know if you want to try and jump on this or not, but how about the need for a project management certificate in North Carolina?
Yeah, absolutely. I can get there.
Take a swing at that.
No problem. So what we actually do is within skills and qualifications, we can do project, we can search for PMPs, project management. There's a lot of project management. So let's just actually be really quick, really here. So I'm just going to pull project management as a skill. So I've searched the job postings in North Carolina that have project management as a skill. So a skill is different than a keyword. A skill can be contextual. A keyword is a direct one-to-one match. But what I want to come down to here is, here's this project management professional certification. So I'm actually going to add this really quickly to the filter and just take out the hard skill. So I'm looking at not only jobs that want project management as a skill, but specifically ask for project management as a certification. And here's what that sample looks like. Great salary. And let's see, wow, nearly parabolic. So you can see relative to the other one, we have a higher percentage of master's degrees and definitely more work experience. We can start to see the skills that come with that. Obviously project management, but something like agile or change management. Change management actually looks to be oversupplied, whereas milestones is undersupplied. And that may be simply people don't know that this is a valuable skill. That's what might kind of be making up this smaller gap. But project management in finance, risk management, I'm seeing a financial vein pop up here, which is interesting. That might be something to dig into, but yes, we can get there.
Cool. Great, love it. One interesting question that came in is there anything we can do to help institutions identify in-demand skills? Specifically, what are the ones that they're already teaching, the ones that they're not teaching? Do we have a capability to get that insight to them?
Yes, IMSI can. It's not within this analyst tool here, but we can absolutely tag curricular content in the same skill language that you're seeing here in this tool, so that relationship can be made, right? It's a really explicit connection between curriculum and the world of work. So we can see Uline is hiring for project management skills in Wisconsin, and here are those top skills and the 4 that are in a gap. Where are those in our curriculum? What's the connection? Are they all in 1 or 2 or 3 courses? Is it in a full master's degree? How do we need to right size that? How do we want to go into Uline's office and talk to them about upskilling their workforce? Is there enough demand at scale to deploy it within a region? We absolutely can make that connection. It's just not within this specific tool here. This is labor market analytic data.
Great. Good to know. Thank you. There was a question, is there a way to filter to pull jobs that require certain certificates or certifications? So I think it is not the same as associates or less than bachelors. So I think the question is just for specific certificates or certifications rather than just the general ed level.
Yep. The way to do that is going to be very similar to the project management flow we just did, or by keyword. So a lot of the skills and qualifications, so kind of as an example, Salesforce, Einstein, or certification, these certifications are being picked up more and more through our natural language process, and we're able to surface them as a skill, as a qualification, right? So that is one way to try to find a Salesforce specific skill or an Azure specific skill, right? But we can also look for certification language. As you see, I've already done it here. Certification language specifically from job postings. So bachelor's degree jobs that have this specific wording around certificate, and we can kind of parse through a handful of those actual job postings to get a feel for what that certificate might be. So very high level, staying in North Carolina here, we've searched for certificate. We have a directors of certification, obviously not what we're looking for, but we could actually look through a lot of the job postings specifically to see what kind of certifications are being asked for by medical record. So here we go. Preferred current certification is accredited records technician. So it'd be in the, it's not as delineated yet as we have IPEDS data, right? Because credentials are a little bit of a wild west still, but there are ways to get to certification type insights within job postings and skills.
Gotcha. Okay. We are coming up on time. We've only got 5 minutes left, but someone asked about logistics and supply chain management in the Cleveland MSA. Do you think you can do that in 5 minutes, or should we?
In a couple minutes? Yeah, I would probably, let's see, I know logisticians is an occupation. So logisticians in Cleveland. I've done some work with folks in Cleveland, so this is fun. So we could start here and start to see, so as Columbus, we could start to see the regional differences between Cleveland and Columbus with logisticians. So Cleveland, over the next 10 years, it basically remains flat, whereas in Columbus, it's set to grow 5%, right? And then we can very quickly, like we did in that initial workflow, jump into the job posting analytics to see the company data and the skills data related to if there's a certification attached to these, the job titles, the industries, that kind of thing. Certified in production inventory management, certified supply chain professional is coming in as a smaller sample being asked for. So yes, this is becoming a more common occupation that I've been running through for folks.
Yeah, certainly relevant today. Cool. That is about all the time we have. Thank you so much, Morgan. It's been fun to watch you walk through all that. I hope everyone on the line found this informative and helpful. We're going to wrap things up. You can expect a follow-up email from us. Regardless of how you responded to the survey, everybody will get an email that just has the recording and the slides. So don't worry about that. And then if you requested more specific follow-up via the poll question, we'll be in touch with you soon there as well. So thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.